Welcome back, everyone, to a first episode of the Casting Couch Quick Reviews. I'm doing a quick review this week of the movie The Dark Phone, and the reason why I'm doing this solo is we have voted, and the next movie that we're doing as a group is Weapons, and this movie came on uh, as a trailer. The sequel for this came on as a trailer when I went to watch Weapons in the cinema. I hadn't seen the original, and I was very intrigued by the second trailer as to what this movie was. And the reason why I'm doing this quickfire review by myself is that Anthony is currently sick, so I'm waiting for him to recover from his illness, and we will then bring the boys back in and get that episode of Weapons done. So I watched this in the middle of the week, Thursday night. It was currently Sunday, and uh, yeah, it was just quite intriguing. I'll do it exactly the same way as Angie does the breakdown. We'll start with like the background of the movie, kind of like the budget and the box office profits. The production budget was roughly about 16 to 18 million US dollars. Uh, it then grossed 161 million, 10 times. So financially, it was an unbelievable hit for a movie that, went under the radar for me, for it to be so well received, phenomenal. And you can definitely see why they tried to make a second one. And this movie was filmed with the intention. It's based off a book from Stephen King's son, and there isn't a sequel book, but after the box office success of this movie, it is obviously being picked up. And Stephen King's son also ended up writing elements of where he wanted the movie to go to in the second one. So he kind of steered the direction of the movie for the second one. So it's directed by Scott Derrickson. The main cast, Finney, the 13-year-old boy, the protagonist, is played by Mason Thames. Gwen Blake, his sister, is Madeline McGraw. The McGraw sisters are very popular in this scene currently. They were in a couple of movies already this summer, and I'm pretty sure there's a story. She was cast, and to make sure that she could actually partake in the movie, the director actually kind of uh, stalled the production of the movie just so he could have her incorporated in the role. So very highly thought of within the industry. Now, the grabber, the villain of this story, is played by Ethan Hawke, and Ethan Hawke is already a multi-award winning actor, but the perception is his interpretation of this killer is just very eerie and very, very well acted. So the critic opinions, the IMDb Rotten Tomato score is currently sitting in the low 80s, so it's still very positive. The audience and general reception is also pretty good, and as I just stated, many praise Ethan Hawke's performance and the way he can build the tension and the supernatural elements within the movie. So we move on now to the plot of the movie. So the movie is set in 1978 in a suburb of North Denver, Colorado. Finney Blake, the protagonist, lives with his younger sister Gwen and her abusive alcoholic father Terrence. Their mother is deceased. It is said that the mother had committed suicide after having disturbing psychic type dreams, which then plays into the father's um, abusiveness towards the daughter when she then incorporates and starts having these same type of uh, supernatural visions. And it's actually one of the most, probably one of the best performances and kind of eerie pieces. There's a scene where the father is beating the daughter because she is having the visions, and it actually what the acting in that scene from herself is just wow. Like I actually felt kind of um taken back at what I was witnessing because it actually felt like you're watching the father beat her, and yeah, it was just a terrible but very well acted scene. So, and Finney, his personality is very shy. He's being bullied at school. Gwen sometimes has dreams about these abductions that have been taking place in the town. So the movie begins and it starts off with like a baseball game and kind of really creating a happy kind of camaraderie within the community. That's the way that I was perceiving it. Uh, and then the player that hits the home run and has said, "Oh, you've got some arm on you, Finney, for how you were throwing that ball." He's cycling down, and then we see the first introduction of the killer's vehicle, just with like a pan in the background, like shot in the Gaussian blur coming, and you just know he's going to be abducted. And that's the first sign of the killer in the movie. We don't see any more than that, except from the fact that the police are out and uh, the people at the school know that the kid's been taken. So moving on, the killer, it's been set that he's obviously abducting children. He's a serial child abductor known as the Grabber, and he's active in the town's area, plaguing them. Bruce is the name of the ball player. He's abducted, and then Finney's classmate Robin is also abducted. Gwen dreams about Robin's abduction. It gives clues, and that's what these premonitions or dreams of the supernatural kind give towards the movie. They're giving her clues as to what we think where the grabber is going to be, where his hideout's going to be. So the police interview her because she mentioned in one of her pieces that there was black balloons at the scene of these abductions, but the police never released this information to the public. So they were like, "How do you know this?" And that kind of puts pressure on the father because of his alcoholic tendencies and his abusive behavior. They're kind of thinking, well, maybe the dad is the grabber. So that's the first thing that kind of thrown out there about the black balloons. And next off, Finney gets snatched, and that's where the kind of tension builds, and the movie starts building all the characteristics of this thriller mood. When Finney gets abducted, because the grabber, we see the van, we know that the van, from what we seen earlier on in the movie, and the grabber is being a magician, and Finney goes, "Are they black balloons in the van?" And then the grabber ends up dosing them and throwing them in the van. Now, this was the first thing that kind of pointed out to me. If it's now known that there's these black balloons at these abduction scenes, and there's like this one black van, why is this? To me, that's kind of like a plot hole. It's like, how did they not know this like one van that's going around with abracadabra on the side of it, and with black balloons that you can clearly see in the back. Anyway, so Finney is snatched and he's put into a soundproof basement with very few pieces of furnishing, old the black phone on the wall that is supposedly disconnected and has no electricity, so it can't make any calls. But after some time, the phone begins to ring, and Finney answers it, first hearing static, then begins hearing voices of previous victims calling to him. These are souls of the dead children that the grabber has previously killed, giving Finney hints and advice and directions for escape that they all previously tried, but ultimately did not have enough time and were killed by the grabber. So, Finney tries multiple escape attempts and the complications that come with. He's guided by the voices, attempts several escape plans, digging under a floor tile, crawling through walls, going through freezer rooms, etc. Each time he is thwarted. Some of the past victims warn him of dangers. Example that the grabber is waiting upstairs if he tries to flee because he noticed that, oh, he hasn't locked the door if I run upstairs, and the souls are telling him, no, grabber is waiting for you. It's all part of his plan. You have to be a, what they say, a bad boy. So he can then spank you with a belt, just kind of like the spanking that we had seen earlier from the abusive father to the daughter. But obviously, the grabber does it 10 times worse, and in so killing the children. He has set out this multiple plan phase of this game that he does with the kids, and that is just his sick way of tormenting them, pretending to be nice. Like Finney wakes up and he's like, "What are you doing?" And the grabber's just like, "Oh, I just wanted to look at you, be nice." And then he's like, Finney goes, "Why'd you kill the other ones?" And he's like, "I didn't do that." It's almost like he's schizophrenic because every time that he changes the mask, it's a different part of his personality. So when he says, "I didn't do that, that was someone else," it was one of the other masks that ended up killing the children. So meanwhile, his sister, through her premonitions and supernatural dreams, has these visions that help locate the house. She tells the detectives there is a man named Max who lives nearby and whose brother turns out to be the grabber. Max is kind of oblivious to his brother's identity. They're going through the town, and Max gets interviewed, and I thought when they introduced Max that I was like, oh, that is the grabber, because he's there, got his uh, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia conspiracy board, and he's like, oh, the killer's house should be such and such if away because he's got to be able to get these kids and then get them back to his hideout ASAP. So I thought he was trying to throw them off. Turns out that like Max near the end of the movie realizes that, oh, the map where it makes most sense is actually his house because the grabber is staying in the basement of his house. So he was completely oblivious until he like figured it out. So coming towards like the end of the movie, as I say, it's just a quick fire movie review. The police and Gwen converge on the house from her visions. Uh, Finney makes a final escape through some of the buried tunnels, hidden passages, um, and the grabber tries to stop him. With the help of the phone, particularly the receiver packed with dirt, used as an improvised weapon, Finney fights back. And this is probably, and I'll get into it at the next part, but this is probably my favorite part. Not just the scene itself, but the way it comes together that all the pieces of advice that the previous victims were telling him from from the phone, from the like digging the hole to like all the little bits that they had said to him on the phone ended up coming to the finale where they are all implemented in taking down the grabber. So as I said, Max realizes that his house is probably the one, so he goes down to the basement and he opens the door, and you know by the way that the scene is shot, it just slightly shows his face, like through the crack of the door, and he's like, "Oh, I knew my brother was weird, but I didn't think he'd be like a serial killer kind of thing." And then he's like, "Oh, you'll come with me. Come on, we'll get you out of here." And the grabber puts an axe through his skull, and then he's like, "You made me do this, Finney." Uh, my brother was an idiot, but like he was my brother, so he was still not taking responsibility for his actions, and that's kind of like one of the parts with one of the pieces of his mask that he's just got because he's always uh, hiding his face. He's got shame to do with the killings, so he can't come to terms with what he's done previously. But once he has the mask on, he can go through with it. So Finney fights back. He traps the grabber in the hole in the floor. Uh, the when he tried to escape via the window and the guard came off, you were there thinking when you seen it earlier, oh, that's terrible. Nothing to do with it. But the way he put the guard in the hole in the floor, that ends up like breaking the grabber's ankles when he falls in because of the way that it's slanted. So he can't really pull himself out of the hole by himself. And then Finney smacking him with the phone, then takes the cable and chokes him out. And for with the cable and the phone, and for one last time, the phone rings, and Finney says, "It's for you." And then all the uh, souls of the kids that the grabber had previously murdered is then shouting down the phone to him. So that is the end of the movie. Finney comes out. The police and the visions that the sister was having were leading to another house. The grabber had been using a second house as a hideout where he was storing the bodies in, burying them in the basement. So he used the family home that they grew up in as where he committed the murders and played the vile acts of his game. And then the second home across the street was where he was burying them. And that's where her visions were leading, were to uncover the bodies of the previous victims. So Finney comes out, the police are all across the other way, and the sister runs over towards him, ends up embracing in a big hug. Then the police see, oh, there's Finney. We'll run over here, take a look, and they obviously see they find the grabber and the dog that was left down there. So that's the end of the movie. And as I said, that movie was supposed to be a once off, but it did unbelievably well financially that they were kind of like, well, we'll have to make a second one. And they got the writer of the book to contribute on where they should take the second movie. So, moving on to my individual thoughts on the movie. The best line, scene, performance. Well, performance, as I said, it's well renowned that Ethan Hawke as the grabber is excellent. His performance brings a truly creepy and chilling presence to the grabber. Even if some of the scenes of him were restrained, when he's there, the tension is real. And yeah, it's just crazy. My favorite scene, my favorite scene, I would have to say it'd be very, very easy to go. Well, my favorite scene is when at the end when the grabber gets his justice. But the favorite visual is when that door is left unlocked and the camera pans from the stairs into the kitchen, and you just see Ethan Hawke sitting there with the mask on and the belt, ready for Finn to uh, break on through and participate in this bad boy piece that he can start hitting. And it's a very chilling visual. And usually we say, "What's your like favorite line?" But I don't particularly have a favorite line from the movie. There wasn't any like amazing dialogue that stands out, kind of like what we've previously said in the other reviews. So, worst line, scene, performance. Um, I'll go with kind of like the subplot kind of payoff where Gwen's powers don't really like lead to helping Finn. It was a bit of misdirection to be like, oh well, Finn might actually get killed. The police are at the wrong house, and the grabber will get him. But it just, yeah, it didn't really pay off the way that it should on. Then, as I stated earlier, the plot holes with like there's this one black van with black balloons in it in the whole town, and how the police missed that is some plot armor, I tell you that much. And then the pacing of the movie, it I know you're trying to create tension. I was a bit put off at the beginning, but then once the first abduction takes place, I thought the pacing up until Finn actually gets nabbed was pretty good. When he's down in the basement, it all feels like, oh, well, nothing's actually going to work for you here to get out. Um, and it just went on really long, the middle portion of the movie. But it's done like that to be able to create tension, so I can't fault it too much on that. But you can definitely tell the pacing of the opening and third act are much quicker. So my overall opinion, it's a good movie. Yes, it's obviously not perfect, but it hits a lot of what the horror aficionados want. Strong villain with no backstory done intentionally. We can perceive by the father of Finn and his sister and the abusive nature that we can only speculate that the grabber experienced something similar, especially with the way he plays his game of doing a similar kind of beating trial for being a bad boy. I don't like saying that bad boy. It sounds really weird. So anyway, that's the name of the game. Has to be said. So strong villain with no backstory, so it's not explained. We might get some explanation in the second movie, and I will briefly touch on that when I finish up. It builds tension throughout. The stakes for the family are high. The performances of uh, those within it are very, very good. I have to say the sister's performance specifically in that scene where she is getting whipped from her father is just one of the most kind of like sickening but brilliant acting scenes that I've ever seen. And the supernatural twist, I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting a supernatural twist for this type of 1978. You should have, if I'd known going into it that it was Stephen King's son that wrote the book, I probably should have known. But um, yeah, it's just very strange that like all of a sudden these souls were kind of helping them get out. So sometimes it's not as terrifying as it could have been. Like there was a couple of scenes where they're building, like as I said, they just kept on trying to like build tension, and there was one of them where it was shot, and it was when he was trying to get out via the window that's just out of his reach, and he gets the rug and puts the string up through the rug to wrap around the guard to try and pull himself up. And that whole time, I was just expecting the way that it was shot, the grabber to come into the scene. And if they had done that, it would have been way better, would have had way more emphasis on the thriller of like, oh, you think you're getting away, but I'm always going to like get you. But they didn't do that. And then like when he fell, I was like, surely he'd hear that noise. So overall, I know it grossed really well, did really well. I'm going to give it a 6.5. Overall, I just thought that the pacing of the movie was pretty poor. There wasn't enough kind of like jump scares. Yeah, the acting was good, and that's what I'm bringing the score up for. The acting was really good from Ethan Hawke and those around for the movie. I look forward to seeing the second one. Um, and the second one, they're going to supposedly lean more in. Suppose the only thing I've heard about it, bar seeing the trailer, is that supposedly the sister uncovers a chilling truth about the grabber in relation to the family. Now, that's what I'm seeing speculated online is that it's either going to be that the grabber is their uncle, and because he was able to hear the kids on the phone, the way Finn does, the way like she has her visions, that maybe he was their mother's brother. So that's one piece, and another one is uh, what I'm thinking is maybe instead of the mother committing suicide, that he maybe killed her. You know, we're told that the mother committed suicide, but it's not really talked about the scenario or anything like that. So we'll see how that goes. So anyway, this has been my kind of quick review. I've tried to run through it solo here. I see that we're 25 minutes in. Uh, Rapid fire one instead of like the hour plus that we have with the other boys. There was a lot of pieces I didn't particularly talk about. I know from watching other YouTubers and their reviews, they just like talk directly through the whole movie, bit by bit by bit. Say like if he dropped a piece of paper on the floor, I'm going to mention that. And there was pieces from the movie. I just gave an overall view of the synopsis, how it went, and kept it in the construct that we have the Cast and Couch movie podcast going. So if you enjoyed this, look, most of the time it's going to be me and the other boys. This is just a quick one because I watched the movie the other day and the sequel's coming out, so just wanted to get an episode out while Anthony was sick. So hopefully Anthony gets better real soon, and moving swiftly onwards, we'll get the weapons review out with the boys talking about that. I won't give any thoughts about that yet, but I do look forward to recording that podcast and talking about weapons because it's a very popular movie at the minute. So, with that being said, make sure to follow the Cast and Couch on Spotify. We don't promote on other socials like Instagram or TikTok or anything. So, this is basically an upload onto Spotify. Please tell your friends uh, because we're only going to grow by word of mouth currently because none of us are really hosts. We're not looking, we're just talking about movies for the joy of uh, the game, the love of movies and that type of content. So if you enjoy, hit the sub button, hit the follow button, share with your friends, and we will see you next time on the Cast Couch. Until then, I've been Keith Hammond bringing you this quick fire review, and have a good rest of your day.